This man needs no introduction, but we need
So we won't give him one.
We need to introduce him, otherwise you won't know who we're talking to. But it's the great Eric Bana.
Yes,
Welcome
indeed.
to the show. How are you, mate?
Thanks for having me.
Mitch, who works with us, he was just telling me that the first time that we ever spoke to you, you actually came into the studio here in Brisbane back in 2008. I don't know what you were promoting.
Romulus, my father.
Romulus,
Yep.
okay, right?
Great memory. Thank you.
And then while you were here, we got you a drink of water, and you left, and there's a half-drunk glass of water. Listen, if anyone wants Eric Banner's half-drunk glass of water, the phone lines went berserk. Some bloke drove from Ormo, which is halfway to the Gold Coast.
A middle-aged man, Eric.
Yes. And he came in here and he picked up your glass of water. And I would like to think he's listening this morning as well, so shout out to him.
I'd hope to think he's changed stations.
Please
to be
tell me
honest.
he's not a scientist and he's got my DNA. I did see someone that looked a lot like me up in Disney recently. Bloody hell.
Eric, I met you back in the early 90s, 1994. It was at the Adelaide Grand Prix celebrity race. It was a all-female event.
What was he doing there?
Do you remember doing that?
I wasn't in the race. I remember you guys were doing some training out at Sandown.
Yes.
And I think I came out to record an interview with someone. Can't remember who I was there to talk to.
Well, you hopped up and gave us a lecture about how to drive, but you were being funny. You're in your comedian.
Oh, so I was there to do a sketch. Did you win the race, Susie? Did you
No,
go
I was
on to
right
win
down
the
the
race?
back.
Who won?
Right down the back.
Sorry.
I think a netballer, Catherine Harvey, won it.
Probably Lisa Curry.
Yeah, that was when you're kind of an unknown, really, and then now you're a massive star. Like 29 years later, look at you doing all these crazy movies. It's amazing, isn't it?
It was that day that put me on my path. I'm telling you.
You don't even remember. Well, the force of nature. Let's talk about this now. Is it force of nature? Dry 2 or force of nature? Because you resume the role, Detective Aaron Falk, as you did in the Dry.
It is a follow-up. Jane wrote Force of Nature after The Dry, and the only carryover really is my character investigating a separate crime. So you don't have to worry if you haven't seen The Dry, that you can still come along and enjoy this one on its own.
For you, I guess, to reinvest in Australian cinema right now, which on so many levels does a lot of things. Obviously, your name lends to the box office alone. I mean, before anyone had seen The Dry, the fact that Eric Bana was doing an Australian film was great. But then the offshoots of that, including the opportunity for young aspiring actors in Australia to work with someone like you. Is that something that you're more passionate about now as your career continues?
Oh, look, it's an amazing opportunity to sort of to help things get off the ground. I feel really passionate about original material. Australian films just don't get sequels and follow-ups. It just rarely happens. So it's pretty exciting. But also, The Dry travelled overseas really well. And we hope this will too. And I think it's really important because, whenever you watch a film from overseas, there's just never any Australians in them.
Yeah.
We get poached in terms of our talent.
Yeah, that's true.
There is never an Australian character in an international story. And it's always really driven me mad. And that's why if you make a great Australian film, we work really hard to try and push it out into the world.
And visually too. This film,
Absolutely.
The Force of Nature, looks
beautiful
amazing.
countryside.
It's going to do so much for I don't know if it'll do a lot for the future of company retreats though. Without giving too much away.
Honestly, not even kidding, Eric. I forget the name. I think it's called Executive Adventures.
Well done.
Is that
I reckon
it?
That's right.
I reckon it is right.
Yeah.
And I kid you not, we did Kokoda track a few years ago. I'm pretty sure it was called Executive Adventure, or something very, very, very close. Just that whole okay, there's 8 days, off you go. What do you mean off you go?
That's what really excited us about doing this one. We love the premise, this idea of 5 women going off on what do they call it? Team building exercise.
Yes.
Hiking in the bush in the middle of winter. Yeah. How's that going to go? 5 distinctly different, strong characters.
Eric, there was a moment on the Kokoda track, because eventually exhaustion and all that sort of stuff, it gets to you when you do these sorts of corporate things. There was a moment on Kokoda when the guy from the sponsor that came with us, whatever it was, like Suncorp Bank, whatever, he was going through a bit of a conniption on night 8 and literally on all fours going tent to tent trying to find water. I zipped my zip shut and held it as he went past my tent. Such was the camaraderie that we built over those 8 days.
That's the greatest ad for one of those trips ever. You just painted a picture. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Force of Nature out in cinemas now. The great Eric Bana. It is the sequel to The Dry, which was a powerhouse. Took over 20 million at the Australian
got to check
the box
it out.
office, and critics loved it. So
And a great
new
opportunity-
one out, Force of Nature, out now in cinemas.
Yeah, I'm trying to get back to the cinemas as well. Watch some great Australian films in the cinemas, Eric, which is important too for the industry.
Thanks, mate.
Absolutely, yeah. Hopefully they do. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Eric.
Cheers, Eric.
See ya.
Cheers.